All right, there we are. I think we're live. Hello, we've got 5 or 6 of you guys watching. Joe, Don, Lenny, Tony, Adam, maybe somebody I'm forgetting, but hello from the first 6-man panel for Armchair Updates. We've got me, the Rockies. We've got Cleveland Mark. This is how it appears on my screen, at least. Maybe it looks different to everybody else. We've got the champ, Duke of the Pirates. We got Cardinal Jeff on the lower left. We've got the newest of the owners, Josh. The newest of the guys here, not the newest owner, but Giants Josh, who took over for Roger. And then we have freezing his ass off in Florida, Sam of the Texas Rangers. Everybody try not to answer at once, but we'll go with Mark first. How are you doing, Mark? You're the AFL. Let's get it out of the way. You're going to be the AFL champion at the end of the night, so I'll kick it to you first. How are you doing? Say hi. Maybe guys have seen you on the football pod, but the guys that have watched the baseball pod probably didn't. So you are the Cleveland Guardians, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm about $170 richer now after Tony deposits that in my account tonight or here in a few hours. But yeah, doing really good. Thanks for
Good.
inviting
Yeah,
me.
as soon as Monday Night Football ends is what the
It's
reins will
official.
be
Yeah.
handed over to Jeff as soon as Monday Night Football ends. And then Jeff will be able to slip on the commissioner crown and wreak havoc on the rest of the league. So you guys, I don't want everybody to just say hi. Everybody knows pretty much who you are. I guess Josh, if nobody's familiar, if you haven't seen him, he's been on the football pod a couple of times. Josh took over the Giants from Roger. He was probably, I think he was the first new owner of the newer owners. Josh does other podcast work with other fantasy guys. He's a smart kid. He is a kid. He's in his early 20s. Hello, Josh. Say hi to the ABL guys.
Hello, everyone. I was saying beforehand that I'm here to represent the youth demographic, which I think is like me, Cal, and Jake. I think there might be a few others of us out there, but yeah, I think basically I'm here so y'all wiser folk can steal my money.
I don't know, man. The Giants, looked like they were going to be a disaster when it was still Roger and we weren't sure what the deal was with him. He wasn't like making a lot of moves or anything. He wasn't active on the Discord. It'd be hard to say that you're going to be able to immediately turn it around, but the NL West is tough. You know, Joe is probably still going to be tough. I hope that I'm going to be maybe better than I was. The Padres are kind of in between. The D-backs could get a lot better, but he still has a lot of salary to cut. And then there's you, who has a ton of money to spend and obviously is going to put a lot more time and effort into the team than the owner previous did. Like, do you have a goal in mind for what you would like to do with the Giant? Are you shooting for playoffs? Like, if you're being honest, are you shooting for playoffs right out of the gate?
Yeah, now that the payout structure's changed and you can't get a lot of money winning the consolation bracket, I think I have to shoot for playoffs. But I'd say I think Roger did a pretty good job with the team, and I plan to use some of his same strategies. That is, paying huge for a couple stars and getting the rest of my team, real crappy, and then trading those players for prospects that won't see the light of day for years to come, and also not doing any trades or anything of the sort. So that's my strategy right
Yeah,
now. We'll
why
see,
not
see if
continue
it
to
pays
go
off.
with what worked? Yeah, why?
Yeah, it worked so well. So that's what I'll be doing.
Yeah, so Joe says Josh has $170 at least to spend. There's no doubt whatever that he is shooting for the playoffs. I guess, yeah, I mean, in the middle of asking that to me sounded kind of stupid. Like, are you shooting? Everybody's trying to make the playoffs, but like, I guess the more honest way of saying it would be like, do you think you're going to have a legitimate shot at the playoffs? Like, with what you see available in the auction and the money that you have to spend, which is a lot, I guess kind of we'll move right into that. Like, generally, without giving away too much of what you plan on doing, we know you're going to be active in the auction. Are
Yeah.
you looking at bats or arms? Like, do you want to say, like, are you looking more at bats or arms?
Yeah, actually. So, I mean, I made it quite public that my sole goal is to ruin Duke's auction. Now, Duke, as far as I know, is going for one player. He's just going to spend a lot, and I'm just going to ensure that he does spend a lot and spends a little more than he wants to. So that's going to be my plan during the auction. I would like other people with lots of money to partake in this goal. We need to take down the champ as a collective unit. It's the league versus Duke this year, the league versus the commish. So that will be what I'm doing during the auction. If it's a batter, Duke's going for. If it's a pitcher, that's who I'm going after. But yeah, I'm actually there was a little behind the scenes talk of like what is available, or should I say what isn't available. So I'm actually curious to hear some others' thoughts. Some teams that have had some more success in this league, what they see is available in the auction.
Well, more success is relative. Let's go to Sam down in the bottom right, because Sam, as we know, the Rangers did not win a ton of games in the initial year, but Sam has made a ton of moves this offseason. At least what I feel like is a ton of moves, and he's coming into the auction with a pretty good chunk of money to spend. Like, Sam, how hashed out is your auction strategy right now? Obviously, you've done a ton of work and like crunching a lot of numbers and showing the league a lot of data that you could have kept to yourself as personal knowledge. But have you done a lot of just stuff for yourself as like the Rangers, or has it been mostly just looking at the league as a whole?
Yeah. Well, first off, I don't know if John's watching, but I think it's the league versus the Tigers this year. From what I've seen so far, I think he's one of the better teams out there, and he's got a ton of money for a team as complete as his. So I appreciate you trying to take Duke down, Josh, but I got my eye on the Tigers. I'm going to be doing everything I can to ruin his draft. Yeah, so far most of the stuff that I've done has been just information for the league, just to kind of get a pulse on what's going on. I have, in the last maybe 2 weeks, as I'm prepping for another league that some people might have heard about, I've been trying to get my ABL prep done, and have kind of migrated from just general public knowledge and broad stroke information and specific strategies that I'll have with the Rangers. And I won't get into those. But I think what Josh was alluding to earlier is there's a really hard decision coming up for a lot of owners, and that's the question of, do you pursue bats or do you pursue arms? And there's certainly going to be an arms race, no doubt about it. I think Jeff was on this a few months ago. There's obviously a shortage of pitching out there in the league that allows 7 starts for 30 teams. There's not even enough starts in the league for us to all start 7 per week, just from a mathematical standpoint.
Yes.
And then you have teams with a bunch of greedy people out there like Jeff and Adam and John that have well over their fair share of arms already on their roster. And so when you have teams with 220, 250 projected starts on their roster already, that means a lot of people are going to be coming up short. So arms are definitely going to be at a premium at the auction, even if you think there's a lot of value in the bats, because there's a lot of great bats and there's not any good arms for the most part. So you're going to have to choose. Do you want to pay for something that's not very valuable at face value, and that's the arms, or do you want to go for that guaranteed Soto, Tatis type production in the hitters? So that's a hot debate. I don't want to discount the hitters, but I mean, you can't deny that there's like 34 legitimate arms projected for 16 or more starts. Only 34 with an average of 25.
That's generous too, Sam. There's less than 34.
Yeah, that's just Fantrax.
Yeah.
That's just Fantrax saying there's only 34 guys that are going to get 16 or more starts.
Right. That
Period.
Includes Steven Strasburg and Zach Davies and J.A. Happ and a bunch of. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's just starts. That's not even good starts. That's just
Right.
Maybe this guy will play and get some starts. That's how thin the pitching lineup is.
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, if you're going into this draft needing games started, I hope you got a checkbook.
I have a question, and I kind of want to hear maybe Duke or Mark's response to this, since both of them are the two champs here, and I think they're just sitting here gathering intel, not giving away any secrets. But I find it kind of curious, since this is a points league, that we're seeing such importance of filling out your pitching rotation, because in a roto league you have to have good pitchers, you have to have balance, because you are always competing for 5 pitching categories and 5 hitting categories. But in a points league, it's just points. It's the total amount of points you can score. So what about this league in particular? Is it the number of teams? Is it the start limits that makes filling out your pitching so important when it comes to just accumulating points? Because you would think you could still do that with your bats, but we've seen that you need those 7 starts to win games in this league.
Go ahead, Duke. You take that.
From my personal perspective, this is the first time I've ever played in a league even more than like 15 teams. So, just from like doing some research, I think I had a pretty good strategy going into last year, and I think if this was a 12 team or a 16 team or maybe even a 20 team head-to-head points league, you could get away with just loading your offense up, and you'll certainly do well, and you might have a chance of winning the whole thing. But I think because this is 30 teams and there's so many really good fantasy players in this league, you have to be deep and you have to have balance on both sides, hitting and pitching. You can load up your hitters. You can go get Tatis and Soto and go the stars and scrubs approach to at least to some degree and make the playoffs. But if you want to win, you have to be deep on both sides. That's my personal opinion.
I think one strategy that worked well last year was Frank's when he dumped all his starters for the dual eligible guys, and then he was able to have somebody in pretty much every spot earning. It could be just 3 or 4 points, but every night they were earning something because they were coming in for an inning or two, maybe picking up a hold. But he did really well with that, I thought, when he dumped all his starters for just those dual eligible relievers, that he could start in any slot that he wanted.
Relievers were more important than I don't know
Jeff
about important. So go ahead, Duke.
I was just going to say that Frank and
Jeff pointed out to me the other day that because of the COVID season, Antrax gave a bunch of players additional eligibility for 2021, and that's not the case for this year. So Jeff I didn't notice it, but Jeff pointed it out to me the other day that there are way less SPRPs this year than there were last year. And I think that could be a huge difference for 2022 than what we had in 2021.
Yeah, that's the relief pitchers that you can put into your starting pitcher slots when you don't have any guys going, and that's a cheat code a lot of people figured out last year. But there are not that many. It's probably a third of what they were last year. So if you have any of those guys, I would find a way to keep them if I were you. I was going to point out about Frank and Detroit John as well. I mean, a lot of what they did down the stretch was to gather as many high-priced offensive guys as they could. And this year we do have a hard cap of 360. So that might not work quite as well because they're going to run up against that cap if they try to assemble an all-star team like they did last year.
So that's something I've been considering a ton, in the sense that I joke about I'm going to go into the auction and do the exact same thing Roger did and spend 90% of my dollars on 2 players and then trade those 2 players for prospects. But this year, who is trading for those players? There won't be teams that will be there. Well, you can afford 1, but not 2. And I think that will significantly decrease the value of said players. I was able to get some decent prospects, Tristan Cassis, for example, who I know Duke hates, but the American Nightmare. I think Duke's just doubting the man. But anyways, I digress. I think I think it's going to be hard to even get someone like Cassis next year for one of those top players that are highly priced.
I don't think that's true, Josh. I think you'll still be able to sell them for a lot, honestly. Like, I know that Joe made that move to get Acuna where he ended up flipping Vernon Davis, and obviously that didn't work out. Acuna got hurt, but Joe's logic was sound there. You know, he flipped a top prospect for someone that was going to dramatically improve his club and really help down the stretch run. And a lot of the top teams are going to have prospects that could be flipped for something similar, I would think, this year. I know what you're saying. Like, there won't be the all-star teams, but those 16 teams make the playoffs, and a lot of us are kind of trade addicts. So we're going to be looking for ways to improve our club.
Yeah, of 16 teams, if even half of them feel like they are a Juan Soto away from a championship and have the cap space to do it, I think you'll definitely find teams willing to do that. Winning a 30-team league, I've never done it. It's got to feel great. When it's a really active, involved dynasty league, that's even better to have your name hanging from the rafters. I think anybody that makes the playoffs or looks like they're going to make the playoffs is kidding themselves if they think it's going to go like it did in year one, where you actually have teams jettisoning pieces that got them there right before the playoffs. I was guilty of the same thing. I'm one of those teams. I just, a lot of three or four of us did it. And I think that's what will be different moving forward. At least I hope it will. I mean, may still run into a situation like that, but I don't think it'll be as prevalent as it was in year one. I think you'll have even more guys seeing what they can do to acquire pieces like that. Maybe the haul won't be the same, but I think the action will be. I don't know. I got nothing. Yeah, let's go with an audience question. Yeah, how about Tony got at me good and quick. You knew he was going to. That Tony would be one of them. And I'll just go around the horn. So Mark, Duke, Sam, Mark, Duke, Jeff, Josh, Sam. So Mark, is there in year one, is there one move in particular that you are still really happy with, like one that stands out to you? That's a Tony question. Is what one move that you made? I guess it could be a pickup, drop. It could be a trade. Maybe it's even a guy you drafted. But what one move are you quite fond of?
Oh, going 1-55. There's so many to choose from.
You did get me Strash trade. You got me good in the Strash trade.
That was actually the one I'm going to bring up. It was trading Strasburg and Minor to you for like Soderstrom, a first and 2 seconds. I think was what that trade was.
That's looking okay.
But actually, the year as a whole, I mean, I ended up with 12 first rounders, another 13 or so second rounders. I've got 15 prospects in the Prospects Lives top 250. So, the first year of this league offered me an opportunity to do something I've always wanted to do, which was I did acquire some people in the original auction to at least try, but then they all got hurt. So it allowed me that opportunity to just scrap it all and go young and see if I can build it that way. I know in baseball it's a lot harder than football. You've got less than 20% chance on most of these top 100 prospects of actually hitting with them. But in a league this deep, you're going to, even your top 200, 300 prospects, they're going to probably be at least role players somewhere at some point. And to have those guys for $3, $5, $7, I think is really going to pay dividends down the road. Next year, I don't think I'll make the playoffs either. I mean, there's just not enough out there to turn my team around that quickly. But I definitely should be better. I think one of the you probably haven't got to it yet is the New Year's resolution is to win 2 games next year. That's my at least 2 games.
Oh, there you go. That answers the part too. Yeah. The other thing was your fantasy New Year's resolution, and I think Mark is probably going to be one of the easiest to keep. People often have difficulty keeping up with these things. They go to the gym for 3 weeks and then.
Should we make a pizza?
Whoa! Do we? Oh my God!
Some Russian person
this
just
channel's
commented
getting
on.
some attention. We have a spam like scammer in the chat. That means like we're like a real channel now. We're like attracting weird. I don't know what that is. Cyrillic. That's not Cyrillic. It looks Russian. I don't know what the hell that is. Or is Russian Cyrillic? Is that the same thing? Yeah, that is okay. Man, yeah, what the fuck? But still, that's cool. We're attracting spammers now. Oh, I don't know if Tony's being serious or not. That's his cousin. But Duke,
congratulations, Alan.
Oh wait, congratulations for me.
Yeah, you've hit the big time.
Big time now.
Yeah, well, I mean, me. I mean, it's us. It's us. It's the ABL. I mean, we're reaching people across the pond.
Some dude is sitting in a basement in like Siberia commenting on our YouTube video.
Hey, look, but this is the first time for that. If it kind of feels, I don't know, feels good. Yeah, to be spam worthy. Duke, do you have? I mean, there's got to be so many, but did you have one or maybe two moves that really stick out with you that have either set you up to win that championship or set you up for the future, or maybe both?
Yeah, I think the move I'm most, and it wasn't necessarily because it really set me up for the championship. It was just because I think it's so far still the only 3-team deal we've had in ABL was the deal that Jeff, Frank, and I pulled off. I don't even remember when this was. I think it was relatively close to the beginning of the season. But that deal netted me Josh Fleming, Jordan, Cade Cavalli, and Edward Cabrera, which kind of set me up. Definitely Jordan was a huge piece for me to carry me through the season. And then obviously this was before Cavalli kind of hit. It was just kind of a flyer I took on him. And then he was obviously amazing last year, and we'll probably see him in the Nats rotation at some point this year. And then Cabrera, he was kind of like a second fiddle to Sixto for a couple of years, and I think there's a good chance that he's going to be better than Sixto. Maybe not as good as like Rogers and some of the other guys in Miami, but Cabrera was a good pickup. And I gave up Matos. That was kind of the trade-off I gave for Jeff at Cabrera was he got Matos, I got Cabrera. Matos is probably going to be better than Cabrera, but I'll take the pitching depth. And I did have to give up Malley in that deal, but I ended up getting him back from Frank like 2 weeks later for CJ Crone. So Malley was pretty huge for me down the stretch.
Oh, for CJ Crone, Frank.
Yeah,
Frank.
I mean, Crone was pretty awesome last year too, but obviously I had Vladdy. So
yeah. Oh. Did you have a fantasy?
The other one
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say the other deal was that was huge for me last year was I traded Matt Manning to Sam for Castillo when Castillo was still kind of scuffling. And I think like right after that deal, Castillo took off and was huge for me last year.
It was an ABL Pirates kind of year last year, man, wasn't it? It really was. Damn. You're like that year that Don Zimmer managed the Cubs where just everything worked. It's everything he did worked. It was amazing. Yeah. And the Cubs, obviously didn't win the World Series.
Honestly, like that's how this league is going to be. Like to win a 30-team league, you have to have a lot of good luck and a lot of balls bounce in your favor. That's the only way you're going to win this league. Win a league like this is to kind of be lucky. I'll be the first to admit that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's not even necessarily what I was implying. I think you know that. But, yeah, it's true. I mean, in a 30-team nobody's going to do it without some element of luck. Whether you're one of the people that considers staying healthy a lucky thing, is it lucky that certain draft picks hit and others don't? Is that luck? Is that research? Is that knowledge? It depends on who you're talking to. But yeah, 30-team league, you're going to need some things to break right. Cardinal Jeff, you got a move move or two that you really look back fondly on?
I do, and I hope to have some of that luck next year. I hope some things break my way in a similar fashion. We'll see. Coming out of the auction last year, I ended up had spent $60-something on Mookie, and I regretted it right away. Like, I thought it was such a good deal at the time because he was $10-15 cheaper than Soto and Acuna and Tatis. But as I started to look at my squad, I realized that having a $60 player really kind of leaves you out of balance. And I started trying to sell Mookie to everybody like crazy. Probably pinged 25 different teams trying to sell Mookie to them, and which looked a little silly, but I ended up finding a match with Seth up in Seattle, and I flipped Mookie for Mookie and a couple other bench players for Zach Greinke and Whit Merrifield and JD Martinez. And yeah, that trade ended up really setting my team up well and gave my team a lot more balance. I ended up trading Whit back to Seth like a month later for Scherzer, which helped a lot as well. But that middle class of players, people like Whit and JD Martinez and players like that, I think most of them are getting kept this year. So I think that if teams want those guys, they're probably going to have to trade for them for the most part. But I do think that was the trade that ended up helping me the most last year. As far as fantasy resolutions, Duke will like this one. I'm going to try to be more patient with prospects when they come up and struggle in the year ahead. Times I bail a little quickly, and I know that. But you got to learn the lesson with Vlad and Trout and others that had struggles with their first taste that ended up becoming superstars. And maybe that'll be Kalinick. I doubt it, but we'll see.
Hopefully Nolan Gorman doesn't come up and struggle, because
I do. I mean, I think we'll see more success from the minor leaguers that come up this year than last year, right? The 2020 loss of the minor league season really
that funky no minor season. Yeah.
Right. So last year they all had a full season. They were a lot of them were promoted and saw lots of different levels of pitching. And I think this year will be a lot better for the youngsters. We'll see.
I thought it was super
Josh,
weird that I was just gonna say the pitchers in 2021 seemed to fare way better than the hitters. And I thought that was pretty strange. It's usually not like that. Usually the year off seems to have negatively affected the hitters way more than the pitchers, and I thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah, for sure. But you're right though, like Manoah
Gorman's going to be a superstar. I don't disagree. I wish I had any of him anywhere. I don't. I don't have any Cardinals on my ABL team, I don't think.
You do. You have Carlson.
Oh, Carlson. Yeah, jeez. Yeah, I've got Carlson. I'm trying to scroll this chat here. Apparently that guy is Tony's cousin. I think he was being honest. I think that the Russian guy is Tony's cousin. Tony's global, man. You think North Dakota, you don't think having cousins that speak Russian, but he'll fool you. Josh, you have any, you didn't get to do the initial auction, of course, so you were kind of handed something that you got to look at it before accepting it or whatever. You kind of knew what you were taking over, but you had limited ability to shape that team from the beginning. What do you like in particular that you were able to do?
So I was told that this would be a question that we were going to turn back onto the question asker, that being Tony, and we were all going to pick a trade with Tony we felt like we won, and no one has done that. So, I feel like I am ill prepared to answer this question, but my trades are weird because a lot of them are not for major league players. I think the only trade I made for a major league player last year was I traded for Harrison Bader, who's kind of like a my guy person who's cheap. And like, if I'm wrong about him, it's not going to cost me much. But I think the thing I'm most proud of transaction wise is like, I feel like I was given a team with, I think it's safe to say bottom 5 minor league system and bottom 5 actual roster. And the fact that I think the team had 1 win maybe when I took over the team. And the minors were filled with 27-year-olds I had never heard of. And I think through like trading the few pieces that I had, I ended up with a pretty good minor league system. I think I have 19 guys now in the top 500 on Prospect Live was the number I send the checks. I know a lot of you use them. So, but the quality of those prospects remains to be seen. I mean, quite a portion of them are Red Sox players. I've got Cassis, Brian Bello, and what's happening here? Oh, we got
sorry, I didn't mean to like throw that at it, but you mentioned how much better your minors have gotten. This is a little something I believe Jeff worked on earlier, taking Sam, like the formula I think that Sam uses, and then adding the new minor league guys that we drafted. And this is the Jeff, you explain what you did here. This is like how much you got better basically, but Jeff can articulate.
Yeah, the right column there. Like if you added the ownership percentage of each new prospect that you got that you picked up in Fantrax and added them all together, your overall kind of, I know that ownership percentage in Fantrax is not the end all be all to what prospects are going to be successful, but it is kind of a hot miss test, if you will, for prospects. It's kind of their trade value and how they're seen by other fantasy players. The higher owned, then the more desirable they are. So, Tony he had so many draft picks, of course. So, he added, he added a bunch of, 30% guys, a bunch of 25% guys, a bunch of 20% guys, and added up together, that equals 183% of basically desirable prospects to his system. And this is obviously kind of a small piece of that puzzle. It doesn't represent what was traded to get all that draft capital. Tony traded a lot to get all his draft picks, and so is that boost in his system worth everything he traded? Maybe, maybe not. But it is good to see that some of the teams that were kind of struggling last year, that their minor leagues were at least, receive a large boost to their system from the first year player draft. And the first year player draft was great. Honestly, that was one of the most fun drafts I've been a part of, because there were so many teams, there was so much trading, and there was a lot of discussion, and I thought it was a blast personally.
Yeah, can we
Josh,
talk about,
to your point? Sorry, I just wanted to point out that you were correct that you took a pretty low level minor league system, and this is just through the draft. This is not any of the moves you made, which made it better, but just the draft alone, getting an 85% boost with only a handful of picks, but obviously those picks were spent pretty well. So yeah, you definitely have a point about, it does remain yet to be seen, but at least in the rankings that we have and use, quite a bit better than what you were left with at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this, I feel pretty good. Or you took it away now, but I feel pretty good where I was on there. I think the two teams that really looked like they outperformed me were actually Mark and Sam. And of course, Sam is going to be using his own methodology to determine how he's going to draft. So he's going to be looking at roster sit percentage. So I really only think Mark then truthfully did better, because I think Sam sort of cheated, but I don't know. Maybe Sam wants to defend himself, but I wanted to talk a little bit about like behind the scenes of that draft, because that draft was my pick, which was, so I originally had the 3rd and 4th pick because I had on what I thought was good authority. So I was asking people questions, promoting rumors, trying to figure out what people were gonna pick, and so I knew the first pick obviously was going to be my boy Marcelo. What? Sorry, what'd you say, Duke?
Spreading rumors. making shit up.
I really didn't think I was, but it ended up looking like that. So of course it gets out, and the second pick already knew that Marcelo Meyer was going to be gone, and the second pick was Don, who's a Red Sox fan, and Don lets it leak to me. He won't tell me who he's picking, but he tells me I'm picking someone that I have already tried drafting before illegally and got kicked off my team. So I'm asking Duke, I'm asking Jeff, do you remember who he drafted? I'm like scrolling through old transactions trying to figure it out. I can't figure it out. So basically we conclude that, well, I shouldn't say I conclude and start promoting that Don is going to be taking a J2 player. And so it gets out, okay, he's going to be taking a J2 player, which was entirely incorrect. He ends up taking Jack Leiter. So I'm sitting there with the third and fourth pick and thinking I'm going to get Jack Leiter and then my choice of maybe one of the top shortstops, or I might even go with Henry Davis. So second pick happens and it doesn't go to plan. So I'm freaking out. I'm like, okay, I've lost that pick. People think this is what happened is then I like go behind the scenes. I'm like, I'm tilting because I was planning to get Jack Leiter or whatever. The truth is I had that third pick traded pretty early in the day, or at least in my head traded. I never officially confirmed it with Steven, but Steven sent the offer out and I knew pretty immediately I was going to take the offer. So I had that third pick traded. So what was actually happening is I was talking to the fifth pick, which was the Nationals. Had them both in a group chat. One of them's out bowling, and I think the other one was at a birthday party. And I'm on a date with my wife because it's a Friday night, and I'm out here trying to basically slowly add the pieces that Steven's trading me, but not trade all of them to try and get that fifth pick. And it never came to be, but I promise you, it was pretty close to happening. And if that had happened, I feel like that would have been one of the best things I was able to pull off. And ended up not happening, and then it just looked like I had egg on my face because I wasted an hour of Steven's clock and then traded him the pick and ended up taking Khalil Watson. But there was a lot more behind the scenes early in that draft. Than
that's great. That
happening.
Sounds like an episode of The League or something. It sounds like a sitcom. That's good stuff. So you don't know all the machinations. And one of the other things that Tony had wanted to ask was like, do you have a piece of advice for new owners? That would be my piece of advice to any newer owners is be active. Be active on the Discord, because it's not required that you be there every day. But man, being there often and forming, as Tony always likes to say, forming good trade partnerships. You form these good business relationships with these guys, and it helps you out down the road or whatever it is. But it's true. If you're on there more, you're more active, you're talking more. Things, now the flip side of that is Detroit John. He's not super active on the Discord, but put together a great team, and he made the deals when he needed to. So chat in the Discord doesn't equal necessarily like being active, but I think everybody knows what I mean when I say, check in often, check your offers. Don't just send them via Fantrax. Try to talk to these guys one-on-one and look at the kind of things that either can or can't happen. But look how different Josh's draft could have turned out if some of this stuff had come to fruition. So that's my one piece of advice. I don't want to get that from everybody yet because we haven't talked to Sam in a while. Sam, do you have a move that you now this is from year one. This is not including the offseason, Tony's question. Do you have a move from year one that you particularly like, one or two?
Yeah, so I do, and I think that it is quintessential in representing my team and my strategy and how season one went for me. So coming into the draft, I had a very precise strategy, and I executed it perfectly, and within a few weeks had dismantled the entire thing, much to my disadvantage. But in the dismantling, prior to the dismantling, I should say, I traded Mitch Keller, Brady Singer, and Oscar Mercado for Jordan Alvarez. That's a pretty nice deal, I feel. I wanted to follow up on how that ended for me. So I traded Jordan for Fromber for Aaron Hicks, James Talon, and Honeywell, then Talon back out for Singer, and then cut all 3 of them. So that represents perfectly, exactly how my season 1 went. A beautiful trade that literally I took zero into the off season, or into season 2, I should say. So that would be my history there, for sure.
That was a good deal, though. The getting Jordan initially, that is a very good deal. Just didn't end up great.
Yeah, man. And you got Jordan back, Sam.
I did, and I only had to pay.
No, you don't have him anymore.
Yeah, I was about to say, and I only had to pay a first, basically, through Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo to get Jordan back through Wander Franco. And I don't know where Jordan is today or what I even got for him, but I think I still have him on my roster, and I'm excited about that.
So Sam, we'll go to you and then Josh. You guys are the big time numbers guys, and we'll hit everybody else. But Joe asked this very early on. Who do you think is going to be the highest player in the auction, Sam? Who do you think it's going to be? Give us a name. You just pull this up to the side here and downsize it a bit. So what I did was I went through each team and I made the cuts that I would make if it was a team that had to make cuts. And if they didn't have to make cuts, then I pretty much left them alone. So 85% of the teams, I didn't make any phantom moves. And on 15%, I made a few little moves. Some of them had to cut $60, $70 in salary, and so I just did my best. Yeah, the D-backs are well over right now, I know.
Yeah, there's a couple teams over 300 right now, but they have 30 players, so they got to cut, 5, 6, 7 players anyway. Yeah. So I think one of the teams I had to cut like Trevor Story and somebody else who was really good, and that was just the only way to get them under cap. But everybody else, it was pretty minor cuts. Nonetheless, I then went and looked at how many positions they had fewer than 300 at-bats on their roster for, and then marked them as needing a hitter at that spot. And then I looked at the draft board to see how many hitters at third base, shortstop, et cetera, existed. And then based on that, I went through the draft board and looked at the first 52 hitters and the first 34 pitchers and put what I thought they would reasonably go for. And I actually think it's pretty accurate. It came up to $1,900 between those 90 players, which would leave about $400 in my math for the rest of the players that really aren't going to hold as much value. So the top player that I had going, I believe, was a hitter, and he was $65, and that was Fernando Tatis. And Soto actually was at 65 as well.
I guess that seems about right on. I don't know what I think. That's why I'm asking you guys. So, Josh, who do you think the highest guy is going to be? The most expensive, I should say, not the highest.
I think Tatis or Soto is a good guess. I think that they shouldn't be the highest player. I think they should be up there, but I think that if people do their research and look through the position groups and what's available, then I think Garrett Cole should go for the most money. I think it's basically Cole and then it's like a huge drop off all the way to Shane Bieber and then another drop off. There really isn't like elite pitching available, and there hardly is pitching available at all. So I think a lot of people will be clamoring to get their hands on Garrett Cole. Now, of course, I can control a lot of this by, I have a lot of money to play with. So I might be trying to push people to spend on players that I don't necessarily want. And then if I get stuck with them, that could be a problem. Or maybe I'm just saying that so people think that's what I'm doing and stay away.
It's funny you mentioned that because Joe actually did make the caveat. His question was not who will go for the most. It was who is the panel, us, going to try to inflate the most. And I guess that answer would be pitching in general. But I don't think it's not us that has to do that. We're merely pointing out the fact that these guys are not going to be out there. Like I think it was Sam or Jeff that said earlier, there's not enough starts out there for us all to have 7 starts. Like they just mathematically, they don't exist. So there's going to be teams left out of that unless, they really luck into some, I don't know, prospects coming up and giving them starts or something. But fact and perception are not the same things. Thank you, Joe.
So
I think it's a fact. Am I perceiving it as a fact that there's not enough starting pitching out there? Maybe that's just me perceiving it that way. I don't think there is. And I say that as somebody that's pretty comfortable with his starting pitching. Yeah, I have some fragility like Joe Ross and Eflin and such, but I'm pretty comfortable with my staff, and I still don't think it's good enough. So there's teams that have to cut big-time guys yet that can't possibly feel comfortable with how much money they're going to have going into the auction with how few arms there are. So, maybe it is just my perception. But, Mark, how do you feel? You've got a lot of money to spend. How do you feel?
Well, I was going to agree with Josh on the Garrett call. I think with pitching being as scarce as it is, I think he'll get run up there pretty high by somebody that's really pitching needy. But with that said, I do think there's a good middle tier there of starters that could come in and surprise a lot of people and be serviceable and get you to those 6-7 starts a week. Not everybody, obviously, but I think there is a little deeper than we've been talking about.
Interesting.
With pitchers. But again, you look at me, I've got 6 starters, I think, and all of them have a blue or a red flag by them right now. So who knows what I'm going to have. I think I've got the most blue and red flags of anybody in the league right now.
That'll change as spring gets here, right? I mean, that has to get somewhat better.
That's part of the reason why I was pushing for a later draft, so I can see what happens with guys like Carlos Martinez and Steven Brault and those guys that are not signed, or who knows what's going to happen with them. Are they going to be a closer somewhere?
Yeah, I just don't know if we're going to get the Chris Flexens this year. Those guys that kind of do come. I know he came over from like Korea or whatever it was, but guys like that are not going to be. Maybe there's a couple in the auction, but guys like that are not going to be on the wire like they were starting off last year. I think Flexen was a wire guy specifically, but they're just not going to be out there. I at least I don't think. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe these guys do show up every year, and you just kind of don't realize it because you're not always in a 30-team league. But I don't know, man. I think it is as thin as some of us have been saying it is.
Well, I think my biggest fear there is the opposite. That some of these middle tier, lower tier guys sign in Japan or Korea because of the lockout, and we end up with less that way, a smaller pool that way. But because you could see us, a guy like Steven Brault go sign with Korea for a year and just.
Tyler Chatwood just did it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
and Tyler Chatwood was traded for a first-round pick last year. I think it was Jeff got a first-round. No, it wasn't. Who the hell was it? I don't even remember.
It was Blue Jay Mark, I think.
Oh, Blue Jay Mark got a first round out of the Padres for Tyler Chatwood. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that's a guy that was traded for a first rounder is now out of the league, and it wasn't Jeff McNeil. So
I was going to make the point that there's some pretty mediocre pitchers out there that are going to be really valuable if teams really want to try to get 7 starts per week, and it's going to feel real dirty to have to pay $20 for Dylan Bundy or Mitch Keller or Chris Paddock or somebody like that. It's going to feel like these guys suck. How can I possibly do it? But if they have a solid rotation spot and they have any upside at all, and those guys do, there is a path where they could find it and be successful pitchers again, then those pitchers are worth, all 3 of them are worth $20 or more. And I'm sure Joe would say I'm just trying to inflate, but those guys really are the 11th, 12th best pitchers available in this auction. And there are many teams here that have 1 or even none starting pitchers. So you have to be willing to invest in those guys. And when you're making your spreadsheets and trying to plan out your auction strategy, it's easy to say, I can spend $60 on Mookie or on Tatis. These are great players. Well, you're gonna have to also spend some money on not great players if you want to compete in pitching.
Yeah, not everyone has a $1 Connor Siebel bolstering their rotation.
I want to interject there because this is I had some other stuff that was pretty pressing tonight, but I passed on it so that Jeff and I could get in this argument. But not really. I was looking forward to this part of the discussion. I'm going to stand on the highest mountain and tell you the pitching is super thin and that you got to buy really bad players to get to your starts as well. But at the end of the day, the guys that we're throwing out there saying, $20 or whatever the number is at the end of the day are like 8 to 10 point per game starters. You're literally adding 8 points a week for $20. And there are hitters that are going to add well over that for that same $20 investment, bumping from a $30 hitter to a $50 hitter. And so I don't think it's an easy decision for a lot of teams. We're going to have some zigging and zagging because there isn't enough pitching. And if the hitting goes at too much of a discount, those teams that get those discounts are going to do really, really, really well. So it's a catch-22. You can't overpay for hitting, but if everybody runs for that pitching like Joe thinks we're trying to get everybody to do, man, those hitters are going to be great.
It's a fair point.
So I have a question for the panel. So based on everything that we've talked about, would you rather have a $6 Trey Turner or Dylan Bundy, Mitch Keller, and what was the other? What was the third pitcher? Chris Paddock. So what's going to make your team better?
Both are $60.
Yeah. Which would you rather have? Those three pitchers or Trey Turner? Assuming you're going into the draft with needing some pitching. Which most teams.
If I have the pitching I have right now, I still like Trey Turner because I don't feel like Mitch Keller or who was the first guy, the non-Paddock guy. I don't feel like two of those three guys. Paddock, I think, has the most upside, but I don't feel like they're better necessarily than what I have. So I probably go $60 Trey Turner. And he's probably like, my utility guy, or if he gets second base eligibility, I suppose, throughout the year. But yeah, I'm probably taking Turner personally.
But if you're like the Orioles right now, and Steven's doing a great job. He's got a lot of great young pieces, but his rotation, has Bailey Ober and Joe Ryan and a broken Danny Duffy. That's what he's got. He needs more if he's gonna make the playoffs this year. So, for someone like him, the three shitty pitchers might be a better option, honestly.
I'll also say, obviously, Trey Turner is a stud, and he's a stud in any format. But I do think we, as a fantasy community, tend to inflate his value because his two best skills are two extremely difficult skills to come by in Roto League specifically. That being that he was the batting average champ last year in the NL, and obviously he steals bases. Now he's still super valuable, but I feel like Turner's one of those guys that will probably get 5, 6, maybe more dollars extra just because he has that reputation in the community as a whole. People just love him, talking about him like he could be the top pick in the draft. That's specifically Roto leagues. I think in a points league, is he appreciably better than say Duke's guy? I'm totally blanking. What is his name, Duke? Kyle Tucker. There we go, Kyle Tucker. I don't know. So I think I would still take Turner though.
After all that, I'll still take Turner. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is team dependent. When you have, if you need the starting pitching, you're probably going to three pitchers. If you're getting 8 points a game, 3 starts, that's 24 points a week. Tatis 6 games, 4 points a game or so. That's kind of a wash there, maybe. But yeah, if you're like Baltimore and only has 3 starters, then yeah, you need those pitchers more than you. I don't know what he has at shortstop now, but
those pitchers have chances to get you negative points, though.
That's
The hitters
true.
don't. Because as a guy that threw a lot of Dallas Keuchel last year and watched him get his ass kicked and put up negative points for me when I didn't need negative points, it's tough throwing a pitcher like Mitch Keller out there and one, relying on 8 to 10 points, but two, just relying on him getting you positive points. Hitters don't have that issue. That is one little caveat to the pitching. Yes, Tony keeps saying, like, you can't have too much pitching depth. You need it. You can't have too much. That's in a very real sense, that's true. But the specific pitchers that we're talking about, I am worried about. There is a giant spider on my wall right now. He just like climbed up into my periphery. It's like this giant. It's like a daddy long legs. It scared the shit out of me.
Can I just say one other thing about when you're making the decision between Turner and then those three pitchers? So I think one thing to consider, like one thing I try to work on, because I struggle with it, because my schooling is actuarial science. I literally was trained to put dollars on people's heads. So auction prices, auction values, that's like my thing. I love it. Like I love putting a value on someone and sticking to that value. That sounded horrible. I love putting a value on fantasy baseball players that I roster and do not own, and I did not say anything bad or not PC. But anyway, one thing that I'm trying to factor more into my decision-making process is just how does one decision influence and shape the rest of my team? So when I'm paying a lot of money for someone like Turner, it simplifies the process in a lot of ways, because one, I know now I have shortstop covered. Barring injury, but that's not something you can really predict. So I have shortstop covered. He's going to produce, and I know that he will not be on my team past that year. That allows me to plan the rest of my team immediately from that point forward. If I go for those three pitchers, not only do I not know if I'm going to have those any production out of those three pitchers. If I do find production, I'm going to have a lot of uncertainty about how they'll fit for my team in the future, because $20 is right in that really weird range. It's not a sure thing to cut them if they should produce, and it presents a whole lot more questions, I think, going that route. So I think even like ignoring the value, it just makes sense if you're trying to simplify your team building process to go for the sure thing in Turner.
It's a good point. So let me ask, in kind of relation to that, Duke, as somebody whose team is largely set, like of us sitting here, you have $60, $65, but only like one spot to spend it on. That obviously has to change how you're going into the auction. Do you don't have to tell us who it is, but do you know pretty well who you think you're gunning for, or are you kind of feeling out the auction on that day one, and you're just going to throw the money at who makes sense the most? Did he not hear me?
I think Duke might be delayed.
First, I'm going to circle back to the three pitcher versus Trey Turner. For me, honestly, it's kind of a no-brainer. Like, if you don't have pitching, like, even though those pitchers are shitty, there's only X number of starting pitchers in baseball. And even if you have to sacrifice Trey Turner or whoever, what $50 hit we're talking about, it doesn't matter. Trey Turner or Acuna or whoever it is, like, even if you're sacrificing that hitter, there are a ton of hitters in this auction. So even if you have to downgrade from like 4 points per game to like 2.5 points per game for like $5, like, you can find a $5 hitter that's going to score 2.5 points per game, right? But even if you have to spend a little extra, $20, whatever it is, $15, there's only X number of starting pitchers. So for me, like, if you don't have those pitchers, it's a no-brainer. Like, you get the three pitchers, even though they're shitty, they have a guaranteed starting spot. That makes your team better, because you can, even if you're not getting the 4 points per game, you can find a crappy hitter for cheap that's going to get you part of the way there, right? But as far as the auction goes and my strategy, I only need like one or two players. I'm going to have a decent amount of money, but no, I don't go into any auction targeting specific players. I just kind of see how things are going, what the market is, who's getting bid up, who's maybe a good value, and kind of go from there. So I mean, I'll be in an interesting spot because I'll already be at like 23 players rostered or whatever it is. I don't even nominate on the first day, so I can just kind of sit back and watch and see what's going on.
That's going to be a nice position to be in.
Right. I have to nominate, but I don't have to necessarily. I don't have to bid.
Right.
That was the hype machine that Joe was waiting for. Was for Duke, who has no legitimate interest in starting pitching whatsoever, to pump up that 3 garbage pitchers would be worth more than Trey Turner. I just want to point that out.
I'm trying to help you guys.
He did win. I mean,
it's math. Josh can back me up on this. It's simple math.
I reveal no truths.
Well, I wanted to, ideally I would have got to everybody and asked you to like break down your off-season stuff, but somehow we've already gone an hour. So I guess like let's go around the horn, and like if you want to give a closing for the evening. I don't want to stretch this all night. It's a work night. A lot of you guys are on the East Coast, Central. You guys are later than I am even, and it's 9:00 here. So we'll start with you, Mark. If you want to, give a 30-second, however long. You got anything to say that you want to cap off with?
Well, there is 7 minutes and 23 seconds left in the Steelers game. And I still lead by 1.16 points there. Where am I? There we go. So $50 away.
1.16 points.
Yeah, 1.16. No, I think off season's been good so far. I like the guys I got in the draft. I like my trades. I know there's some risks there. But picking up Donaldson, I'll probably maybe 1 or 2 years on him because he's near the end. But that's better than any player I've had on my roster since Moncada. And then who else did I just pick up from Sam? Who did you trade me the other day?
You got Eddie Rosario.
That's right, Rosario. I love Rosario. Decent contract. I've always been a big fan of his. I could see 2 or 3 years on him. So nothing earth shattering, but it definitely puts me in a little better position going into the draft. I think a few slots are filled.
Remember, you're only trying to win 2 games. So
that's right. Those guys will do it right there.
Yeah. Duke, what do you say?
I love this league. I love all these. It's definitely the funnest fantasy league I've ever played in, and it's nothing I've done. It's really everything that you guys bring to the table. It's such a great group of guys, and I think it's going to be a pretty interesting couple months, especially leading up to the auction, to see what people are strategizing as far as their contracts go. I've never played in a contract league before, so it's going to be pretty interesting, I think, even before the auction happens. Like we're talking a lot about the auction, but there's a lot that's going to happen in this league before the auction even before we even get to the auction. So I'm really excited to kind of see what happens and see what all the strategies are and learn from all you guys.
Good deal. Jeff, closing comments?
Yeah, I just want to echo that I really enjoyed ABL for the last year. It's been awesome. It's been awesome getting to know all of you guys. Had a lot of great conversations in the chat. Learned a lot about fantasy, a lot about baseball, and it's been a great addition to my life. And look forward to another great year.
Cool. Josh, as the oldest new guy, are you happy that how did you find ABL? Were you a Roto World guy?
No, it was probably through SP Streamer. I think Duke posted the Don Zimmer Fight Club League in that, and I thought it sounded interesting. I liked that it had such a well laid out constitution. I was like, this sounds like a well run league. Obviously, that was correct. Duke runs great leagues, so I ended up over there. And then I think talking crap about Jeff behind his back to Duke, got close to Duke. No, I'm kidding, that didn't happen, but got to know Duke and Jeff and some of the other guys in that league. And then when I had been probing and asking questions, because once he moved all the leagues to his channel, and like 90% of the banter is between all the ABL guys. At that time, I started probing about like, why does everyone have like a team assigned to them? Like, what's going on? What's this league everyone's talking about? And once the spot opened up, Duke asked me if I wanted it. I think he undersold how bad of a team it was, or maybe I was just too giddy to get the invitation that I didn't take a close enough look. But I'm glad I joined the league. I echo what these guys are saying. It's lots of fun, and it's good to know that the money I'm putting into this league is going to good people. So
right on, man. Sam, as the guy who has maybe paid the second most money in pizza bets on the board, but as an EC member, as a member of both baseball, football, I mean, you're making your own league. Do you want to take a little bit of time and pitch your league, or just you're just going to direct people to the video? You got anything you want to say?
Yeah, I'll say just a few quick closing comments. First off, I think I've only paid out $60 in pizza bets, and I've easily made double that. So I'm a fan.
So
of
you're
the
a
pizza
net
bet.
positive. Yeah, okay.
Sam, who did you pay the $60 to?
Josh and Squibb.
Who in Squibb? Who's the first person?
Josh.
Yes, that's right.
I just want to know what brand pizza you got, because I didn't get a picture. I expected some great Boston pizza to come into the chat, and I didn't see it. Was it Domino's? Please tell me it wasn't Domino's.
It was not Domino's. It is not been used to purchase pizza yet, actually. So I'll let you know.
Fair enough.
He's going to Moe's.
Yeah. No, I'll just say that speaking of pizza bets, I came on the pod tonight to make a pizza bet with anyone who doesn't think the Rangers are going to make the playoffs. So that's an open invitation to the league out there. The Rangers are going to the playoffs. There's not a question in my mind. Some hard lessons learned, but lessons learned nonetheless. I feel like I'm in a great position to move forward. So I think the point that Duke made a few minutes ago about the contracts being just totally glossed over and everybody focusing on the auction is really interesting. I think it's because people don't know what they want to do yet, and they're holding their information close to their chest because they don't want to, give up to the league what they're thinking, so that we're all just kind of guessing what the other guy's going to be doing. And that's pretty fair. I do love ABL. ABL's awesome. I echo what Duke said. Easily the most fun I've ever had, and that's winning 5 games, which really sucks. I won't plug my league. It's in the League Finder. If you want to go check the video out, I got a lot of videos that'll be coming out this week. Working on editing those right now. Really excited about that, but I won't involve any of this time with that. But I appreciate that.
That's fair. So with
Sam,
that,
it looks like you already might have a taker on your pizza bet in the chat.
Yeah, Tony's in, of course.
Tony, which
see, here's the thing. Tony and I already have a bet that if I win more games than him, I get paid again. I believe that's the bet that's already on the books. So it's going to be terrible when I make the playoffs and win more games.
Does anybody want to pizza bet me on the next person to make a pizza bet? Because I got Tony.
Well, Alan hinted at, Sam like paying the second most in pizza bets, which sounds like might have not been completely true. Sounds like Sam had some good success before he ran into yours truly. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. But the person who has definitively lost the most, it happens to be the person trying to make a pizza bet with you right now, Sam. So I don't know. I feel like that bodes well for you. I'd also like to know, does this extend to the Major League Baseball team Rangers, because I'd like to take that bet then.
Yeah, so if you would like your fantasy to correlate with your major league franchise, you're going to have to get into the Total Franchise Experience League. I'll just put it that way.
Well done, Sam.
You know where to
That's
find
good.
it. Yeah. So, you know what? I'm kind of weirdly realizing that, like, especially with Duke and Jeff, I think anytime I've had these guys on, they've been on together. I've never had like a just Pirates and a just Cardinals. I've never had a just Rangers. I've never had any of you guys on just individually for your ABL team. And I realized, talking to Zach earlier, I haven't had the Brewer. I haven't had a lot of guys on that I want to. So I want to thank you all for, you know, taking an hour plus on a work night to come and do this, when a lot of you, you know, we're doing a lot of not being able to talk because we can't all talk over each other. So I would like to get everybody on individually, but I want to wait until the teams are a little more locked in. I don't want to, it makes me uncomfortable to sit and ask all you guys, who are you going to go for? Even if you want to be as transparent as can be, it makes me feel weird to have you tell everybody or whoever's watching, who are you going for in the auction? Do you like bats or arms more? Like, this is not stuff you should really be talking about. I got to think of something to ask you. But when this stuff is a little more locked in, I do want to have everybody on individually to really dissect how you went about your off season and how you feel about year 2 coming up. And especially with Josh, you know, and Zach, how you guys feel about taking over foreign teams and trying to, you know, Steve, with the Orioles, has really done a great job in turning the Orioles into something that was purely his, and he's got a shitload of money to spend in the auction. So, you know, there's just not enough time and space right now to do that. But thanks for we had 7 guys at one point. We got spam, we got Russian spam. You know, we're really coming along in this world. We're about a year away, give or take, from the first Armchair updates. So it's lasted this long. I'm super excited that guys are happy to get together on a random work night and talk about this league. It bodes well for it going forward, I think. Even the guy that won 1 game, you know, is happy to take an hour out of his work night and sit here and talk about the league. So, hey, Tony and I are going to win the dynasty football. Fantastic. That's a nice win. All right. We'll end with that. Thank you guys for coming on. What's that, Sam?
More money to buy into the TFE.
I'm going to need it, man. Yeah, I need it. I need it to be a profitable football season. Thanks again, guys. You know, we'll do this again. And thanks for watching. Thanks for being on. And until I get at each of you next time, it was a pleasure. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it.